Okay, welcome back to Pali Pod, episode 2. I have a special guest here. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, my name is Motaz Arab. A lot of people know me as Motaz. I am half Palestinian, half Jordanian, raised in the United States, and I'm a current student at Utah Valley University studying engineering, design, technology, and international business, and I'm so excited and grateful to be here today.
I actually didn't know that the business you're doing is international business.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I specifically chose that field of study because I would love to do business with or in the Middle East and bridge the gap between the East and West. I think it would be a great avenue or great way for me to learn how to do that.
Okay, great. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
We're both students, me and Motaz, and I'm in midterms. Are you in midterms?
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for coming during midterms. How are they going?
Hanging in there.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
me too. I feel like, so spring break is also right after. We've already talked about this. Neither of us, we're both lame. We're not doing anything fun. We're going to be adulting and playing catch up instead.
Yeah.
And Ramadan, we both celebrate Ramadan. So Ramadan starts this weekend. First off, the fact that Ramadan is intersecting with midterms, like, stress central for me. How are you feeling?
I feel like one or two things are going to be lacking during Ramadan. It's either going to be school or work, and I haven't decided which one.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's hard. And I'm a little anxious because I love Ramadan, and seriously, iftars are like my favorite part of the day, and I'm really excited to see people that I really miss. That's going to force us to get together. But I actually work nights right now, and the busiest time of my shift is between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m., which is during iftar time. So I'm a little anxious that those 3 days too, I go to school and then work. Like, I wake up super early, get ready by 7 a.m., and I'm not home till after midnight. So doing that, fasting Tala doing it is very different than usual Tala doing it. So I'm a little anxious, but I'm really excited. I'm actually going to host an iftar too with my club. Okay, let's get into it. So I actually did not plan to talk about this, but I just have to bring it up, and I really hope that you've seen it. Something that's on my mind today and yesterday, just like 2 days ago, I think, the Trump Gaza AI video came out. Tell me that you've seen this.
I have seen it, and I am so disappointed that somebody told this man that this is okay to post.
I don't know that someone did. I don't think he takes anyone's permission. I don't think he listens to his advisors, is my impression. But I also know that he fires anyone who disagrees with him and then only hires advisors that agree with him. So then if the precedent is, if I disagree, he might fire me, people are going to be afraid to tell him no. So anyway, this video is on my mind right now. Very concerning video, very disrespectful. This is a area experiencing genocide, so to view it.
My take on this is it feels like our president is trying to normalize a lot of things via his messages and his social media posts that should not be normalized. And I feel like us American citizens should be able to look at our president as a role model for what is okay and what is not okay. And if we have our citizens doing that now with our current administrations, we are absolutely doomed and destined for disaster.
I agree. I think it's very concerning when I see a video like that. I'm like, wow, like, what he's pushing is illegal, B, it's unethical. There's just so many things to talk about. I didn't really plan to talk about that, but it just came out, and that's been a little distressing for me in the last couple days.
That AI video represents a real lack of understanding of the history of that region, and it really just feels like a slap to the face to people who even do just a little bit of research into the history, because that video is absolutely misrepresenting and disrespectful to Palestinians and Palestinian culture.
It shows that he's not taking what's happening seriously. I think it also shows that he's not even paying that much attention to what's happening, and he's just wondering what he can get out of it and ways to use and abuse that land and what's going on. I really hope that people are going to stop him, and I hope that this is enough to I want to avoid politics. Well, I don't want to avoid politics because I actually think it's a harmful thing to say, like, oh, anything that's controversial we shouldn't talk about. But I hope that this is enough to actually have him be removed. I think if we see, hey, this is someone who's supporting genocide and someone who wants to even increase the genocide, and then instead of stop the genocide, kick all those people experiencing it out of their homes, this is someone that I think, that should be enough to remove him from office. So I would like to see that. I know people have tried in the past, so I don't know what this is going to look like moving forward.
That sounds great in a perfect world, but considering our last administration funded and facilitated everything that's happened since October 7th, and absolutely no repercussions for that administration, I don't see anything changing for this administration as well in regards to being held accountable.
No, I agree. I think that there has been funding, weapons supply, all these things. It's not a president issue. It's a administration systemic issue for sure. But I think I would like to see, yes, like you said, more accountability. If that's realistic, who knows? But yeah, we need to stop normalizing this, because then it's going to open doors for continual people to take on these positions of power that continue this, instead of people that are saying, hey, this is not okay.
How do we, as citizens, as Americans, and especially as students, help induce such a change in a time where we feel as least impactful as possible? What can we do to support this change in the system and policy and government?
No, I agree. I think it does give a feeling of hopelessness. Is that what you're saying? Or helplessness?
Helplessness.
Yeah, I feel like, a strong sense of helplessness when you see that of, right, like, why is something not being done? Why is this going unchecked? What is going wrong with the checks and balances that this is going on for so long, right? It feels very dystopian. It feels like the worst dystopian book I've ever read. I'm actually very interested in, like, the legislature right now because of this. I'm very interested in going into policy and administrative work for this reason, so that I can learn more about that and really understand how do we change that. I think we can find community, though. Something that's helped me is finding community, because I think when you see all these people who are normalizing it, it makes you feel like you're crazy, and you're like, whoa, like, it makes you feel different. Or I just feel like it creates this isolation effect. And so I think having community and being around people who are like, yeah, this is not okay, and we support you, is so, so important. Finding solidarity, finding community has been really impactful for me. Also, really quickly, I've told you this, but I just want to say that one of the things I admire most about Mottaz is, so navigating Arab identity in the West is a complex thing, and I could do an entire episode even just on that topic. But the West, in my experience at least, I don't know if for you it's been the same, but I grew up with a lot of narratives that are negative towards the Middle East, towards Arabs, and especially towards Palestinians, especially even now. So growing up, I know this is common with Arabs growing up in the West, but they feel shyness with, like, sharing that they're Arab. It's something that they might be hesitant to share. Anything that has to do with their Arab identity, there's insecurities around it because of the way that Arabs are treated here. So something I've really admired about Mottaz is, since we were young, like literally growing up, he's always been very confident about his Arab identity. He's never let, those racist ideologies make him feel that he needs to hide any aspects of his Arab identity. And another thing too is, And this is, so no shade to anyone who does this, because this is literally half the Arabs I know.
Yeah.
But like one of the things is whitewashing names, for example. And by the way, I have a whitewashed name. It's not Tala, but I don't know if I want to share the story of my last name. But anyway, so what I'm getting at is it's very I like saw a reel or like a TikTok or whatever that was like moment of silence for all the Muhammads, Mu'tazes, other Mo names that go by Mo. And it's basically just like how we have to assimilate and whitewash so many parts of us to feel that we fit in. And even just but Mu'taz has always been really good about that. And anywhere we go where someone, calls him Mo, he's like, hey, it's Mu'taz. And I think that's really cool.
Well, my experience as Arab in the United States might be a little different to a lot of other people's. I grew up in states that had very little Arab people or Arab community. So I often found myself having to represent the entire Arab community when people meet me. I'd have to help people relearn or learn what true Arab culture is. And I lived in states like Wisconsin, Nebraska, Minnesota, and a lot of those places only know what they see on the news. For the past couple of decades, America's war on terror, they had to paint Arabs and Arab culture and Muslims in a certain way to justify what they've done. So my job had to really be teaching people who Arabs really are, because one, I am Arab, I look Arab, and my last name is Arab. I didn't really have a choice, and I didn't feel comfortable submitting any part of my culture to make other people feel comfortable. I felt that if anybody just really had the knowledge, there would be no reason to treat Arabs or anybody differently because of their culture or where they come from.
Love it. And let me ask you, so you're saying like you feel you had to represent, you're like, there's just not a lot of diversity in these places. I would argue even here in Utah, there's not that much diversity either. I feel diversity when I'm in the city, when I'm on like my college campus, but not necessarily in the town that I live, or if I'm just at a grocery store. Coworkers, same thing. I actually work in the city, so I'm very surprised at the lack of diversity within my coworkers. But do you feel, since we represent, like many times when people meet us, we are the first Arab they meet, right? So we have to portray, there's this pressure on us to portray Arabs positively, or like this is how they're gonna brand all Arabs based on how they view us, right? So we were born and raised here. We aren't even, we have a mixed culture, me and you, where we are half westernized. And so do you feel like we give a proper to represent it? Is there pressure there? Do you understand what I meant?
I totally understand what you're saying. The only pressure I feel in representing my culture comes when I feel I am meeting somebody who is ignorant of my culture, because I know the information that they have is of a biased, false, and often negative representation of who we are. If you simply turn on the news, anybody who's watched the news for the past 20 years, if they solely watched the news, they would be terrified of Arabs and Muslims, and I can't blame them because of the campaign and the work that's been put in to misrepresent us.
And that's something too that I feel like I could even do a whole episode on too, is the misrepresentation in media, right? You actually posted something so long ago, I don't even know if you remember this. Now it's shared all the time, but you shared it. You were one of the first people I saw sharing it. It was many years ago, and it was like someone holding up a patch based on skin colors. And in the news, if it's a white person committing the violence, they're mentally ill. Like, the more white they are, the more mentally ill they're labeled. But then the more dark they are, the more they're labeled terrorist. And I think there's so much in the media with, there's this A, double standard, B, in racism, whether intentional or not. And C, this, I don't know how to say it, but this, like, 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 this white saviorism where like there has to be a polarity there between the way that they depict us, because then, you know, they can't be seen as this savior if there's not something wrong with the rest of us.
Yeah, so that's a deeply ingrained issue in Western society, is the whole idea of, you know, this actually stemmed from the Crusades, where in order to justify what they were doing, the whole narrative and stories after the Crusades and for the Crusades was that we are civilizing an uncivilized people. We are bringing to people what they are needing and missing out on. And that whole idea is often racist and inhumane, because it's pretty much saying, hey, this type of people are better than others.
And something that comes to my mind, which comes to many people's minds, is the double standard, for example, with the way that Ukraine is covered because they're white Christians versus the way Palestine's covered because they're brown, Arab, and many of them are Muslim. So, yeah, definitely there's, like, we could literally spend days talking about that. So I'm going to change the subject before we do. But, so I just told you today, I finally got my tickets to see my family, and I'm very, very excited. I haven't seen them in 2 years. The last time I went, so most of my extended family is in Jordan now. The last time I went was 2 years ago, and it was to do a second wedding there. The U.S. loves to make it complicated for people, especially people in the Middle East and people from Muslim majority countries, to come. So it's a little challenging for my family to come for my wedding. So we did one wedding here with my husband's family, and then we did a second wedding with my family on the Dead Sea. And we did it on the Jordanian side so that all my family can attend, because the occupation loves to be... I can't decide if I want to allow swearing on this podcast or not, but I really want to use the word assholes. Thoughts on swearing? What is your opinion on that? Is that trashy? Is it fine? Is it appropriate?
Do it. If you want to do it and it comes out naturally, do it. Just beep it out. Beep out.
Okay, I'm keeping this part in, by the way. Okay, so the occupation wants to be assholes and not allow my family on the Palestinian side as Palestinians. So anyway, but yeah, so I haven't been since I came to celebrate my wedding with my family 2 years ago. So I am so excited to see my family. I cannot wait. And I really want to go to Palestine. I feel so determined to go. And I just want to bring up... So there's two things on my mind when I come in to record this today. One was that Trump AI video that we talked about. And the second thing is, now that I know I'm going back home, I'm going to the Middle East, and first thing on my mind is to go to Palestine, is I really so desperately want my cousins to come with me. I want my aunts and uncles. I want my teta, my grandma, to come. I want us all to go. And my Jordanian family cannot go. So... as I brought up in the last episode, I assume most of my listeners are people who are already very educated on this topic. However, because I'm encouraging people to listen just who want to learn more, I am going to just explain a little bit. But yeah, the occupation will not allow these Palestinian diaspora families that live in Jordan to come back to Palestine. There's a few different ways. I'll do a different episode on what that looks like, but essentially they would have to apply for certain visas, and these visas would require them to call their land by a different name, admit that, that land isn't theirs. I shouldn't say admit, force them to acknowledge that the land is no longer theirs, give money to the occupation. That money would be used by the government to further oppress Palestinians and murder other Palestinians, innocent civilians. So it's a whole process. And even if you were to even do that, they typically will deny the request. So what I'm getting at is my family cannot come with me, and I feel so sad that my cousins can't join me. This is the reality of the occupation. This is the reality of what's going on. My family cannot join me when I go to Palestine. So the only reason I can go is because I have an American passport. If you have an American passport, it's different. I also, something that's on my mind is, I will be honest, I didn't plan to go back to Palestine or Palestine anytime soon. Since things escalated in October 2023, I have been very uncareful in speaking out, and I have done many public appearances, TV interviews, speeches everywhere. And this is something too, when you try and get in, first off, I'm anxious that they're gonna, they can easily look me up. I'm sure I'm on that Canary website. Do you know what website I'm talking about?
No, but it would make total sense that they would try to.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I haven't been careful at all. And most of the people I know who go back frequently, they won't say anything publicly because then Israel won't let them in.
Yeah, that's something that I've heard becoming a lot more common nowadays, is people being more wary about what they post on social media and what they post online, because they don't want Zionists to disrupt other part of their lives for speaking out for Palestinians, and that's putting fear in a lot of people to do what they would normally think is just the least they can do for Palestine.
So let me ask you. So one of the reasons I am dead set on going back to Palestine this summer is it's really important to me to see the village my grandpa grew up in called Kufr Ana. I want to see all the I just finished reading his book, by the way. He wrote a book. I don't know if you know this, and I've been reading it. It took me forever because it's in Arabic. So I had to translate it first, and yeah, it was a whole thing. But anyway, I finally just finished it. And I'm dying to go to all the places that he talked about in his book. But so, first off, have you been to Palestine?
Never.
Okay. Do you feel like they are destroying things at a very quick rate? And I feel a time sensitivity, like I need to go see it right now or it's not going to be there. Were your Palestinian grandparents born and raised in Palestine?
On my father's side, yes.
Okay. They are destroying things quicker than the diaspora, us, can get back and really see and know, like our kids, for example. Oh, we were going to talk about that too. So like is this a pressure where your kids, it's up to us to show our kids Palestine and to teach them about the culture? Do you feel like there's this time sensitivity to it? Do you feel like when we're so far and they're destroying things so quickly and we're becoming endangered, that you feel equipped?
Well, you are defining ethnic cleansing, and it's a sad truth that the cleansing is happening a lot faster than the rebuilding or regrowth of Palestine, whether that's Gaza or the West Bank. So I personally would love to go to Palestine, but under the condition that I would have to be doing some sort of humanitarian work, contributing to the society, the people, the land, because I would feel terribly guilty knowing that I have the privilege to be in a land just because of my passport, whereas the people who have lived there and know no other home but that land aren't allowed to return. So I would love to do some humanitarian work in or for Palestinian people.
So I actually know about a lot of humanitarian organizations, like at least a few that I know about in Utah, for example, that do global work. I know a lot of them have paused their efforts there, which really bothers me because the efforts are more needed there. However, I'm sure you're well aware a lot of these humanitarian aid workers are even being killed, so it's not safe. And so a call to action is, why are we not doing something about that? I mean, we, as our elected officials, there's a lot of people. I don't want to play the blame game because there's so many systemic things that contribute to this. Oh, I'm so glad that you brought up too the guilt feeling because, so there is the guilt, like you're talking about, of, using our privilege. And there's also something called survivor's guilt, which I'm sure you're familiar with, like how fortunate are we to be in safety and why are we different than the ones who are still there? And so now that I know that hopefully I will go to Palestine this summer, yeah, I feel guilty that I can only go in because I have an American passport. That makes me feel terrible. Like, my family deserves to go in as much as I do. For me to have this privilege that they don't, literally just because I was born here, makes it, like we were just talking about this, like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to enjoy my trip. Like, I'm going to just feel terrible that they can't join me. It's not okay.
I feel like, yeah, I can't really imagine it until I go there, but I would feel guilty feeling like, hey, I can step on the soil these people can't step on. I could drink from the water here that people are restricted from. It's a crazy feeling knowing that we still have medieval issues in modern times.
That also makes me think about the tourism there, for example. And I think Palestinians feel mixed on this, if it's ethical or not for people to do tourism there during the occupation. Me personally, I have mixed feelings about it. I can see it and also can't see it. I also feel like I change my mind on it sometimes. But I do think, like, that also raises, the ethical question of people who go visit and then come back and do nothing about what's going on. They come back and they don't advocate, like, hey, I was able to go just because of where I was born, and, other unequal things.
I see two sides to the coin. I think the tourism could be good for supporting local economy and allowing to shed light of what's really happening on the ground to the people that are coming from all over the world. But on the other side of this coin is that tourism is often restricted, and you're only shown a certain dimension of what's going on, or they're not actually given the opportunity to interact with local Palestinians. And it also seems like tourism can also normalize a lot of what's going on there, making people feel like, hey, if we can vacation here, there's no real problems. In my opinion, there should be no tourism in a place where people don't have equal human rights. It's almost like a zoo of slaves back before, during Jim Crow laws. It makes no sense.
I think of that analogy too. Like, I feel like, me personally, again, I know different Palestinians feel differently on this, but like when I think of, people who are coming and doing tourism beside what's happening, I'm like, I feel like these are the same people that would visit a plantation during the Civil War, when these people working on the plantations are demanding freedom and equality, and they will still, go visit these plantations and then not listen to these people and not help them and leave and then not do anything. To me, that feels the same way. Or they might be the same people who visit. And I don't want to demonize, because I think too, and I go back and forth on the, they're just ignorant, and if they know, they wouldn't. But I also have experience where, once people know, they still don't. So I think it's complex. But yeah, I think it's definitely harmful to see how many people go and then come back and aren't advocating for change, and don't feel bad or guilty that, they have that privilege that so many Palestinians don't have.
Okay, so something I just wanted to mention is something I really liked hearing recently from one of my favorite speakers. His name is Shahid Bolson. He kind of broke down who the enemies are in the fight for humanity. And in regards to this humanitarian issue, the Palestinian issue, our enemies are the ignorant and the arrogant. And ignorance can be fixed through education. Arrogance can't be fixed through education. Arrogance is often found in places of power, politics, corporations. and that's harder for us to fight directly. Something we can do as students who, in a time now we feel helpless, something we can always do is fight the ignorance by spreading information, spreading knowledge, teaching people, bringing this up to people that may have never heard any other narrative than the war on terror narrative of Arabs and Muslims and Palestine. And I think inadvertently in our fight against ignorance, if we do a good enough job eliminating the ignorance, we can more easily fight the arrogance.
Okay, so I do just want to wrap up really quickly. I was going to ask you another question, but we're out of time. I'm just going to wrap up quickly with our tidbit on Palestine, like a cultural thing. So today's cultural thing is I do want to just shout out my Sido's village, my grandpa's village he grew up in, called Kufrana. A lot of these names have been changed. But yeah, so today's will be Kufrana.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you for being on.
Thank you so much for having me.